All right, welcome back. We are Fast Cars, Fast Money, myself, Rich, and Coop. No videos last week, but we finally got videos back up for this weekend. Just two races, the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series. As always, if you guys want these spreadsheets, they're on Twitter. It's at Fast Cars FM. Any questions, comments, drop them down in the YouTube comments below or send us a message on Twitter. We will get back to you over there. We're just going to hop right into the picks. This is the Xfinity Series video at Texas, but we will start with you, Rich, with the 10K driver range. Who are the guys you are targeting this weekend?
Well, up here you can see Castard is the most expensive, and that's mainly because of the place differential. DraftKings has done a pretty good job this year compared to the past few years on pricing up all the place differential guys. And even though Gralla is at $11,200 and it seems like an insane price to pay, he does offer a bunch of place differential. And probably in cash, he's a great play this week to pair with either Allmendinger or Cindric because you need to have a dominator this week. So I probably would fade Gralla and GPPs just because of the ownership, and then maybe go with like a John Hunter who's in the 54 this week, which we all know is a great car. And then I love Allmendinger. I think Allmendinger is going to come in under owned compared to Cindric just because how cheap Cindric is this week. And I think Allmendinger has showed that he's pretty good on every single racetrack, and he's really fighting hard this year for the championship. What do you think, Coop?
I agree. I think it's really even between the top four priced drivers there. I think Allmendinger is the obvious GPP play as opposed to cash, with Cindric starting right there on the front row with him. But the other three I'm pretty even on. I don't mind Allgaier either. He starts a little higher up than Nemechek, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's right there at the end fighting for it either. So I'm probably going to split between Nemechek and Allgaier as far as ownership goes, and I like both of them. And then I do really like Cindric starting second there at 9,800. I'm really surprised that he's cheaper than Allmendinger and Allgaier being right there. It seems like they've been lowering his price recently, and I'm not really sure why, because I still think that he has the best chance at dominating the Xfinity race. So I do really like paying that price, but as you said, he's probably going to be higher owned.
Yeah, I like grabbing one of those front row drivers again with playing that narrative in your head of like, okay, with the drivers I'm selecting, how does this line work out? How can these drivers score points? Well, Allmendinger and Cindric are in the front row, so they have the best chance to get out front and lead early. But if I had to say like kind of who my four favorite dominator, lap leader plays would be, I think John Hunter Nemechek's in there with the 54. I think AJ Allmendinger's in there with the 16. I think Austin Cindric's in there with the 22. And the other one who's really cheap this weekend would be Daniel Hemrick in the 18 car. So I think if you can get the right combination of nailing those dominator plays and then playing them with other drivers who offer a lot of place differential or who offer a lot of value with the price, I think that's the right way to go. So like Rich was saying, I like Gralla, but probably more in cash lines, or if you're playing Gralla, you're sacrificing a potential lap leader. So you have to really nail and be confident in whoever you are plugging in instead of Gralla to make sure that they are leading laps. I don't really like Burton or Gregson or really Haley or Jones this weekend just because of how high I am on those other guys to get out front and lead laps. And if they're leading laps, I think it's going to hurt the ability of those drivers to score well. So it's interesting. Like we do have some weird pricing this week with place differential, but again, if you are playing that narrative out in your head of how is my line going to score points, I think if you can get those dominators in there and then pair them with some good place differential plays, I think that's going to be the way to go. So it really just comes down to who you're the most confident in leading laps. And I think Cindric is a great option in the 9K range. But so anyone else over in the 9K range that you like, Rich?
I actually like Gragson a little bit in GPPs. As you can see, he did almost win this race last year, but gave it away. He's actually been running really good since the playoffs started, and I think he's going to be really low owned this week and has a potential to get up there and lead some laps and maybe even win the race as well. So he's definitely probably my favorite GPP play outside of like Allmendinger if you're talking about him and Cindric. And then I obviously like Brett Moffitt also offers a great amount of place differential. He is a little expensive. So you might be hard to get back up in this range if you're playing, Cindric and John Hunter Nemechek or Cindric and Growler or something like that. It's going to be hard to get back up here. But he is a decent play. But outside of those guys, I'm not, and Cindric, obviously, I'm not really a fan of this range.
I'm the same way. I really like Cindric. I touched on him already. I really like Gragson as a GPP play. I think he's right there with Hemrick. Obviously, Hemrick's cheaper, so I prefer Hemrick. But I think they're comparable in what their upside could be. And I also like Moffitt. If you can fit him in, and maybe you even fade those top 4 price drivers in the 10K range, and you do something like go with Cindric and then Hemrick as your GPP, leaders of the race, and then you come back up and you're able to afford Moffitt and then have plenty of salary left for some other drivers as well. I don't mind that at all. I like where Moffitt's priced. I think it's a fair price for him, and I think he can pay that price tag off.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting comment. The way that some of these drivers are priced, like you can get away with not reaching up to the very top of the slate and grabbing those drivers. You can build a very balanced line. You just need those, 9K and 8K drivers to get out front and lead you laps. They need to earn dominator points. They need to make up the points that potentially everyone's assuming the 10K drivers are going to get. But if you don't go up that high, it allows you to not go down as low either on the bottom of the slate. So you kind of hit some ranges that potentially some other builds might not be hitting. So I really like the 8K range a lot. I already touched on Hemrick. Hemrick usually doesn't get the finishes he deserves, but he usually is able to get out front, and his team's really fast on pit road. So that's a good advantage for him to continue to move forward, advance his position, and potentially stay out front. Riley Herbst is now out of the playoffs, but it's still an SHR prepared car, starting 20th at $8,600. He should easily be able to fight for a top 12. Same with Jeb Burton. I think he has, kind of top 10, top 8 upside. Sam Mayer, I think, is interesting. I feel more confident, ironically, in Burton and Herbst than I do Mayer. Although I think Mayer has probably the best potential to get out front and lead laps. I don't think Herbst or Burton will be able to lead laps. And then not really too interested in Annette. Unfortunately, he's retiring at the end of this year, but it seems like his leg injury is still kind of lingering. Starting ninth, he doesn't really have too much upside, but I really like a lot of these 8K drivers. And I like the lines that you can construct by getting some of those guys into your lines.
Yeah, I think all 3 of those higher price guys in the 8K range are really good. Henrik, like you said, is probably more of a GPP play to if you're fading, Allmendinger or both of Allmendinger and Cindric. I do like Riley Herbst starting 20th. He's been actually running pretty well in the playoffs. He did get eliminated, but he's still been running halfway decently. Does offer a lot of place differential and is at a pretty good price this week. Coop?
I think you guys hit this group pretty well. And I'm going to slide down into the 7K range. I really like a lot of these drivers in these 2 ranges. JJ Yaley has shown this year that he can sneak up into the top 20 with relative ease consistently. And he's been paying off his price tag there if you end up in that $7,000 range. And he's my favorite driver in the range. But another driver that I like is Ryan Sieg too. I think he's got potential to sneak in around the 10th position somewhere in there is his upside. And Austin Hill also, I think, is a good GPP play. I think he could sneak up and get a decent finish and give you those finishing points as well as a little bit of place differential baked in there too. And I'm not against Brandon Brown either at 7,900. Obviously, the other 3 drivers that I mentioned there give you more place differential, but I think it's a fair price for Brandon Brown starting 18th too. I really like the 7 and 8K ranges, and I think there's a lot of different ways you can go, and there's a lot of opportunity in those ranges.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I second you to that. Like I love the 7K and the 8K range. I think there's a lot of good value plays in there. And it's potentially a way to maybe get different than some of the other lines that are going to be out there. But I don't really even mind Myatt Snyder. He starts the highest of all the drivers in the 7K range. So maybe more of a GPP play if you are playing cash or you want to take it a little bit safer. I think I kind of agree with Coop that I think, Yaley, Sieg, or Hill are probably safer. But if you're talking just who has the most upside, who has the highest finishing potential, I think that's going to go to Snyder in the RCR car. Snyder isn't the best driver, but the equipment is pretty good. And if he can take advantage of a late race restart and avoid some of the wrecks, I could see him finishing, top 8 or so. And at, $7,700, that'll be a good price for you. But I think you kind of nailed it there, Coop. You can't really go wrong with a lot of the 7K drivers. But is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Rich?
No, not really. We can drop on down in the 6K. Dylan Lupton is definitely the best play in this range in the Sam Hunt Racing 26 car. We've been every time, no matter who's in this car, we're always playing them because they're for some reason DraftKings never prices them up well, and they always have top 20 upside no matter who's in the car. So we're definitely on Lupton this week. You need place differential from your pump plays. And then basically the rest of the guys in here, at least Berryhill through Martins, they're all pretty solid place differential guys. You just kind of got to pick your poison with whichever one you like the most. I'm probably going to have Lupton. Graf is like starting, I think, on the second to last row. So he offers a ton of place differential, can move up in the top 27, top 25 maybe. So this range is just kind of pick your poison, in my opinion.
I also like Lupton, and I'll touch on Tommy Joe Martins too. I think this is some of the, one of the furthest back that we've seen him start. At 6,400, I think he can get you a top 18, around maybe 15s is upside, and that would be enough to pay off that price tag. And if that's where you end up, I'm happy with it. I would prefer him over Graf just because Graf hasn't shown me much this entire season. But if you have the salary to go to Lupton, that's definitely my preference.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys in the 6K range to the 8K range, like anyone that we have medium to high interest around, like you can really play whoever you want, and whoever you kind of have the best feeling towards. Obviously, the guys that we have high interest towards are the way that we're going to go, but a lot of the medium interest drivers in those ranges too are definitely in play. So there's a lot of drivers in play this weekend for the slate, which makes it really interesting. So I'll be curious to kind of see what the actual optimal lineup will end up being. And then we get to the punt play. By far, my favorite play of the punts is going to be Bailey Curry. He starts on the last row. He's in the 15 car. Normally, he's in that 74 Mike Harmon Racing, machine that usually breaks down. So he's actually in decent equipment this weekend. He's in the JDM car. Can't hurt you at all. And that's really what I want to do with punt plays. I want to play punt plays that can't hurt me, can only, help me. So even if he has a bad day, it's not going to hurt my line. Whereas if I play Alex Labay as my punt play and he wrecks out and finishes 30th, that's really going to hurt. But if Bailey Curry finishes 32nd, like it's not great, but it doesn't hurt me as bad as Labay, finishing 32nd. And Curry has good speed too. Like I expect him to fight for, top 20 in this car. So he's probably my favorite punt play by far. If I'm just building one line, if I need to go this far, Curry's could be in it. But do you guys have any other punt plays down here that you're considering besides Curry?
Yeah, I'll touch on in the 6K range, actually. We kind of went past Joey Gase. If you can't get Graf, or even if you have the option between Graf and Gase, I personally would probably go with Gase. I'm not too scared of him. Again, he starts so far back that he's not going to hurt you. And he's if there's any wrecks, he's going to move forward. And then going down into the below 6K range, similar to how I said Tommy Joe, he usually starts a little further up. Jesse Little usually starts a little further up as well. So he might offer a little more place differential than he typically does, and his price isn't really higher than what it typically is. So there may be some more opportunity there than you would typically get. And then David Starr is the last one. David Starr either gets 40th or like 25th, and it really doesn't make much sense. But check out their page and see if they're sponsored, see if it looks like they're going to run hard at this race. And maybe it's somebody else that you throw a dart at in a line as another punt option.
Yeah, you guys pretty much nailed the punt range. I think Curry's the best play. I agree with Andrew. Probably going to have him in most of my lines just because I know he's not going to hurt my line at all. And he's cheap enough that it allows you to get and pay up for more than 9 and 10K plus guys.
Cool. All right. So that'll be the breakdown for the Xfinity series at Texas. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Liking the video really helps with the YouTube algorithm, helps us get noticed by more people. And then if you like this content, if we've helped you in any way, subscribing to the channel, that way you're not missing out on future content. It means a lot to us as well. But that'll do it for this one. And we will see you on the Cup Series video.